I'm Edward Ashley for the Screen Actors Guild Legacy Series. This program was conceived and developed by the Guild Conservatory as a living legacy for its membership, present and future, and to honor those actors who have made an outstanding contribution to motion picture history. Film is an art form that literally grew before our eyes, and the very texture of every enduring work of art must embed the glowing life of its own times and the embers of the past. If it does not cover space as history, it must plumb the depths of emotion in an individual to reach the universal perception. One actor whose talents have fully met these attainments is Eddie Albert, who will be interviewed by Fernando Lamas, the distinguished actor and director, on March 29, 1980.
Eddie, 25 years ago, you and I made a movie with Rosalind Russell. And then about 2 years ago, I was lucky to direct you 4 or 5 times in your series Switch. And I never asked you a question. How did it all begin? How young were you when you became aware that maybe you wanted to be an actor someday?
Oh, I've been asked that quite often, of course. And up until a few years ago, I very sincerely, although probably not truthfully, I answered the question by saying that I had nothing to do with it. I just lucked out here and I stumbled into something there, and the next thing I knew, here I am with you, you know. But the truth of the matter is, as I began to look back, I did see a pattern. And when I was growing up, it was important to be a businessman or an engineer, something of that sort. I remember the first time I ever did any acting was when I was about 7 years old in school, and the teacher wanted, we were depicting the little pigs getting away from the fox, the wolf rather, right, by rolling down the hill in a butter churn, and I was the kid that did that. And I got a big laugh and a lot of hand, and that's very heady stuff.
And you liked it.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I loved that applause and the laugh, as opposed to the teacher telling me, no, Edward, 9 times 5 is not 158.
That's right. And it probably stayed in your subconscious, I think, the applause, etc.
And I had the faculty of wiggling my ears at that time.
Well, you still do.
And making the kids laugh. Mm-hmm. And I got to enjoy that.
I think we all probably begin at the same time, doing that. I remember in school, at the same age, 6, 7,
Making
8.
faces in the mirror to see,
exactly.
Try to act.
And the little plays in school. I remember once playing a turkey, and I said, why do I play the turkey? I happen to be the taller of the kids at that age.
Yeah.
And turkeys are taller than chickens, and that was it. Now, but seriously, then, when did you decide that that's what you wanted to do? Or it was a series of events, as you say? What was a series of events? How did they evolve?
Well, I was blessed with a certain acting talent, apparently, and a reasonable voice, and I used to sing in school, in high school, and then I began to earn money by singing at night, 50 cents, $1, something like that. And I was thinking this morning driving here, remembering when I was 15, we would go around and sing in movie theaters, amateur nights. Do you recall those? Sure. That's before your day.
Sure. No, before my day here, but it takes, in other places too. Yeah.
And we would sing, and there was a strong man, I remember, named Red something from South Dakota, and I would help him. He showed me how to make up. You burn a match and then make your eyebrows up. Yeah,
I see.
And he would bend horseshoes. And he would break ropes and things like that. And I would hand him the things in these crummy little theaters, the Princess Theater, I remember. And this one night at the Princess Theater, we were playing there, and he bent these horseshoes and handed them out to the audience to show them that they really were powerful and, strong and hard to bend.
And then
yes, they were. They were real horseshoes. Then he would ask for them back. Well, this night, in that area were a lot of iron workers. And they're out there fooling with these things and bending them back into shape, out there themselves. And they wouldn't send them back. And he got kind of irritated and rude. And I was standing there, my bare face hanging out, and he asked, please send those back, please, we've got to go on with the show. Well, now the horseshoes came through the air, out of the dark, you know, you can't see them to dodge.
How old were you then?
I was 15.
I see.
And so I ran downstairs, I got scared, and because when all they came up, but there were 3 or 4 missing, and I didn't want to account for them under those circumstances, you understand. So,
we were once talking on the set, I remember, about longevity as an actor. And certainly you're one of the most phenomenal cases as to having a tremendously long career, and not only long, but so diversified. You know, and what do you think the secret of the staying power that you have, you know, and to stay in there? What is it? What is the main element that makes a person like you, or Hank Fonda, or Jimmy Stewart, stay in there successfully for a long, long time?
You know, Chevalier one time said, the good Lord gave actors a resistance to disintegration that he denied other mortals.
It might be.
So I think it's a gift of heaven that you want to stay on your feet and throw punches.
Sure. Is it also because we are aware that by being in the public eye, maybe we ought to take care of ourselves a little better? I don't know. You certainly do.
The director that really taught me most of what I know about comedy, George Abbott. I was on radio in the early 30s.
It was in this century, wasn't it?
Pardon me?
It was in this century, wasn't it?
Yes, right after the war.
Right.
Yeah. And he brought me on to Brother Rat, and it was a big success. And I went there to room service, and from there to Boys from Syracuse. He is well in his 90s today.
Was that in the 30s, so that we keep track?
Yes, yes. I was just answering your question about the health, and he's in his 90s now, and he writes a play and produces it and directs it every year, or a musical, and he looks like I wish I'd looked.
There you are.
He keeps in condition. Well, you and I, for example, have an advantage. Yes, I ran 3 or 4 miles already this morning, and I do that every day, or swim in the sea, and obviously you're in marvelous shape.
Within the realm of relativity. Yes.
Well, you're not Muhammad Ali.
No, right.
But we have more of a motivation because our bodies are merchandise to some degree.
Definitely.
This is our inventory, and this body has given me a marvelous life. I had a grand life, and I intend to keep it that way. I want to appreciate it and respect it.
Sure.
So I stay in shape, and to me, I enjoy it that way.
Now, talking about diversification in your acting career, isn't it true that in the 30s, when nobody knew television existed, you were already doing television?
Oh. That's interesting. That relates back to the other question about survival, I think, that you brought up. Yes, in 1937, I was on radio, and I heard about this thing, what they called, I don't think they called it television.
Then?
No, I've forgotten. But I was in Radio City, on radio there, every day. I made $50 a week, 5 shows a day, on the network.
I imagine.
Yeah. And they had in one studio a camera, television camera. Now the studio was very tiny, maybe 10 by 10. But the walls and the ceiling were all incandescent light.
Because they needed the
screen was about this big. And it was so vague that you had to use black makeup for your lips, your eyes, so they could see some sort of a face, you know. Black lips and under here. Not a word, yeah.
Right.
And we would stay in there maybe 2 minutes, and the heat would become so great. But during that 2 minutes, they were adjusting and whatever they do. There were 90 television sets in existence in 1937. And the aerial was on the top of the Empire State Building. The sets were used by engineers around the town there to do what they do to advance it. When the war came on, things stalled because they couldn't get any any equipment, of course. After the war, we went immediately back into television, and it was very clumsy, but it was marvelous.
Of course,
it was just
everybody.
The whole show had cost maybe $1,800, and you'd get a fountain pen for something.
All right.
But we were doing. I remember I did not right away, but later on, George Orwell's 1984. With and people like Del Mann were kids then, learning to direct and so on, and we did. The great thing then was it was live. So when you came on, you better know your stuff because all the sets that were in existence were watching you, and there was no taping, there was no going back and straightening it out. When we went on, for example. You remember the show of shows?
Sure. Sid Caesar.
Sid Caesar, and I introduced certain songs on those shows every once in a while, like 3 Coins in a Fountain, and Fairy Tales Shall Come True. Yeah, they'd pick out the songs, and they always were hits. Well, after I would sing, there would be a ballet. You'd be singing, and they'd go into the subject. For example, I recall 3 Coins in a Fountain. There was a sailor scene that followed on a wharf at a seaport town, that kind of, with the dancers and all that kind of thing. Well, you start out dressed however you are, tuxedo or whatever, but when you get into the ballet, you have to be in a sailor costume.
So you have
there's no way to get off and change. So what they would do, the camera would then move in. What is it? 3 coins in a fountain, and the camera gets up here. Then somebody starts undressing you.
Right. That's it. That's it. Be careful with the zipper.
Yeah. Watch it with that. And then the camera would pull away, and you're in a sailor outfit.
Absolutely true. Do you know what? I once did a Playhouse 90, and I wore 2 suits under the suit.
Oh yes.
And somebody said to me the next day, "You're getting fat." But it's true. We were on the verge of disaster every second, as you know. Because everything was live. Live. We were on the air every minute, 90 minutes. Imagine all the things that could go wrong, and they did go wrong.
And you'd have to run out a door and come in the other door immediately dressed differently.
Very nonchalant. Right.
Somebody had pulled off every once in a while, because the lights, then you'd go out and you're in pitch black. And you'd see somebody run out there, and all of a sudden, you'd know that he'd run into a stage grace.
Into a door or
and
something.
You got to wait for a minute while they revive him, you know.
Exactly. Now,
pardon me, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was recalling also the Connecticut Yankee, where I was at a party and in a tuxedo, and I get hit on the head and fall on the floor, and the camera comes down, and they rip off my clothes and dress me, and when the camera comes back, I'm in the 12th century.
Of course.
You know?
Of course.
Marvelous stuff. Real fun, but after one of those shows, you tend to lie in bed for a day or two to
of course.
put yourself back together.
Now, you see, we've been talking about your first appearance on television, then live television. Let me take you back to the theater.
Sure.
Okay. What year was that? Brother Rat and all those things. Was that a play that Freddie Finkelhoff
Yes,
wrote? Right.
And Johnny Monks.
Right.
That was 1936, give or take, I'd say, yeah.
Was that the play that brought you to Hollywood?
Yes. Not immediately. When they made the film a year or two later, yes, they asked me to come out there. In the meantime, I had also done room service.
I see.
Which was an enormous hit, as Brother Rat was. And I came out to do then the film Brother Rat, and then went back to New York to do Boys from Syracuse.
What I wanted to ask you was, actors generally, Hank Fonda says once in a while I go back to the theater because that's the true route. If I would ask you to compare the 3 mediums, theater, television, and motion pictures. If you're talking to a young actor, so what is the difference? What is the techniques that you use in one as opposite to the other? What would you tell me?
You said a young actor.
If you're talking to a young actor.
isn't that a question that asks also what your goal is, what you want out of life? Off the top of the head, I'd say stage, because you really, that's where you really learn your craft. And then too, it's such a delight because when I was doing Boys from Syracuse, with Jimmy Savile, who was a pantomimist, we were being interviewed one time, and the interviewer asked that question, as I recall, and I went into a kind of a long, elaborate explanation, which, as I look back, made really no sense at all. I just was clumsy. I couldn't think clearly. And finally, she asked him, when he was a mute, he could hardly talk. And she said, "Well, Mr. Savile, what do you think? Why do you?" He says, "I love to hear him laugh."
Well, of course, the human contact. Also, isn't it true also that the fact that I think the theater is the root of our profession is because it's actually an actor's medium. Once the curtain goes up, you're on your own, and there is nobody can say, "Cut, let's do it again." While television has become the producer's medium and motion pictures has become the director's medium, without any doubt.
The reason I was a little hesitant to dive into that thing is that times change, and it may well be that the stage was right for me and for you. It may be that with the modern technology and satellites and CATV, and it may be that that's outdated. I don't know. The young actor will have to make a choice for himself. If I had to do it over again, economics not involved, I think I would rather stay on the stage. I really do. And it goes back to a sentence I mentioned earlier, something I said earlier about what is your goal in life. And mine, as I look back, seems to have a delight in growing rather than achieving.
You mean as a person?
As a person.
Right.
Rather than achieving. I get a great kick out of learning something here and learning something there. And the stage, you learn, well, extend that into, say, nightclubs.
Which you also did.
Which I also did. Right. And the nightclubs, say, in a nightclub, you learn very, very fast.
Sure.
Because you not only have a live audience to correct you right now, but they do it very often in a very rude way.
Yeah, they talk to you.
Yeah. Waiter, head waiter, get rid of this bum. Now you got to, if you said a line and you didn't get a laugh, you better figure out what went wrong and how to fix it before the next show, or you are out.
That's improvisation under pressure.
under extraordinary pressure.
Right.
There, that 1 o'clock show in the morning when there are quite a few people who have been boozing it up.
Oh, sure.
You learn. It's a tough school.
Absolutely.
But it's a marvelous school.
What do you think, in your tremendous experience of working with a million different directors, what is it that makes a great director? In relation to the actor, what is it that the actor gets from a great director that he doesn't get from a traffic cop, as most of the directors are today?
Well,
especially on television.
Well, that's the nature of the business, that they're traffic cops because of the time and the money.
Right.
You got to go like that. Well, in the first place, if he knows his business, which takes a half a lifetime, and is able to communicate it, I believe that's that simple.
That's as simple as it is. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if he's been an actor, as you have, you know what phrases to use to suggest, and you know what not to do to frighten or freeze up the actor.
The pleasure that I get from working when I direct people like you, for example, is the facility and the speed with which you can communicate. You know, because I remember once you were doing something and I just went like this.
Oh.
And that's it.
I have a funny thing. You'll love this.
Give me a little less.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. A similar situation with Bob Aldrich. We were doing The Longest Yard, where I played the villain. And at the very end, by the way, let's go back to villains.
Go ahead.
When I finish this. At the very end, there's a scene where Burt Reynolds wins the game, much to my chagrin. And it was so important that I am now devastated. The scene is the huge arena with the crowds up there. Now the crowds are gone, the prisoners are on the field, and I'm coming down from the box and standing there, you know. And there was a helicopter and things like, so you want to get it in one shot.
Is it still in frame?
Are we still in frame? Huh? Yeah.
That's good.
That's all right, yes.
Sure.
And I came out there. Now you do it one time, and so I did this. I walked out there, kind of uncertain where to stand, and I did this. You know, like they used to do in silent films. I did like that. And Aldrich says, "Cut." Ed, he said, "A little less Rudolph Frimmel."
You see, that was it.
Yes. Oh, I fell down laughing.
That was it.
It was the old Blossom Time and
he works
Student Prince and Vagabond King. Right. I was doing out there.
A little less swagger.
Yeah,
He works immediately. I said to a young actor, that's about 2 months ago, "Give me a little Tony Quinn." And he said, "Oh, you mean this is what you want?" I said, "That's it." But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Let's talk about villains,
yes.
because you have played some phenomenal villains on the screen. And with great relish, with great, like you were enjoying them. And I've always visualized the fact that a villain is not so much of a person as it is what that person does that makes him a villain. What do you think?
Well, when I did Attack, where I played a cowardly, drunken army officer, chicken and things like that. We did a play which was called Fragile Fox, and on Broadway it was a bomb. It didn't do well at all, and I didn't see the play, but they told me that the villain was played and directed and written as we did sort of in Hollywood with a mustaches, obviously, a black hat and a white hat,
exactly,
that kind of a thing. Well, Jim Poe, marvelous writer, wrote the screenplay, and he, at any rate, got me into the play that part, and Aldrich and so on, with Aldrich directing again, marvelous director. Oh, marvelous director. Well, I went to New York before the picture to study with Stella Adler for several weeks.
I see.
On the role. And we got into the role of this villain, and it was a little puzzling, and finally it dawned on her. She said, "You can't really play villainy. We've got to go back and start over again." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Every person," I think she got this from the Russian writers, "every person believes he's doing right at that time. He convinces himself. He finds an excuse for himself to do the most dastardly things." She said, "All you have to do to get a man to be evil is to convince him he's helping people."
I see.
Like Hitler.
Some of the great dictators.
Yeah, no one was more sincere than Hitler.
Absolutely.
And she said, villainy is the comment that people make on your action later on. However, they could just as well have called you a hero.
Right.
Which often happens.
That's right.
And so she said, "We've got to go back and we have to find a reason for you to be a coward, or what the people will refer to as a coward." And she said, "Why don't you?" And I said, "Well, I don't know how I can." She says, "You've got to find a reason in two things. One, you've got to give yourself a background way back." This is this actor studio kind of thinking.
Sure.
A background way back where you have some reason to be frightened or things of that sort that you can't overcome. But at the moment the camera is on you and you're doing an act that is later be called villainy, but you don't want to be a villain, and you can't envision that your stomach hurts terribly. And put that into your mind. And this is the reason, and you want to pull back, but you try to think, Yes. Well, let's pull back. We'll establish. We'll regroup, and then we'll come back and get them. And this is what you tell yourself. And as a matter of fact, I had been in combat and recommended, or commended, I should say, for an action where I went in under fire. And the next day I got to thinking, and I said, you really were trying to get out of the action, weren't you? You weren't a hero. And if all those people hadn't been watching you, you wouldn't have gone in.
But of course.
I'll never know whether I'm kidding myself or not. I really don't. No. But that's what we're saying is that in The Longest Yard.
Right.
Another villain, I gave him, well, with the writer's help in this case, and Bob's, gave him, he was a little flaky, but he believed that he's going to turn these prisoners into men. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And he'll do it if he has to kill them. No. The worst guy, the worst villain I know is the fellow who says, look, Fernando, you've done a rather unfortunate thing, as you know. And as your bishop, or let's take it the Inquisition, I'm going to have to burn you at the stake so that you live in
Are you Torquemada at this moment?
Right. You live in heaven forever. Mm-hmm. You know? That's the fellow to be frightened of.
That's right.
That's a frightening villain.
Right. That's very interesting. Now, while you were talking that, it suddenly occurred to me that I have to ask you one question that is very, very important for young actors, young people in our business, actor, director, whatever. Here you were, an established actor, a so-called star, and you get the humility in your own intelligence to go to New York and prepare with a drama coach a part. That proves that we really never learn everything, doesn't it, about acting? Because there you were, you thought that you had to work with somebody to find that the key to the character, right?
Oh.
And sometimes we young people think that everything is so simple, you know. Like my son said to me when he was 18, Dad, when is it going to happen? When am I going to become a big star? And he was 18, you see? And I said, maybe when you are 72, like Charles Coburn, maybe next year, who knows?
That's one of the nice things. Although you don't have to go to New York to learn, you can learn, I'm sure, if the janitor tells you, look, that's not very funny, Eddie, you better listen.
You better listen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what the hell, you don't say, what do you know about acting? Or what do you know
I was very impressed. I honestly tell you very sincerely that there you were, going back there to prepare for a role.
Actually,
you know, Luke Alhern. Remember Luke? Luke Alhern.
Sure, of course.
Well, Lou was a very dear friend and a mentor, and I worked with him on scripts, etc. When Lou did Julius Caesar with Brando at MGM, Lou went every day for 3 or 4 hours to a little bungalow. It was a Mrs. Fowler, a diction coach.
Yeah.
I was one of her better customers, as you can deduct. I needed a lot of help with the diction coach. And there was Lou Alhern working with her to develop a Shakespearean type of diction that he had forgotten. And there is a man who, you know, of great stature as an actor.
Oh, sure.
And there you are. You see, the humility to always be able to say, I still can improve and I need somebody to guide me.
I often take roles for that very reason. And I'm just thinking of one, actually the last one I did was not a large part, but in fact, he was, the reason, one of the interesting things was he was not a large part, but he was very important in the play. And I said, I think I can take that and make that big enough with what I've got there to affect the villainy. It happened to be a kind of a nice villain, the play. And so this is one of the reasons I took it. And I put a patch over my eye.
I see.
I affected a limp.
Of course.
And had a cane,
you had to have a little fun
which I had to whap with, and I had a white suit with a flower here and a marvelous straw hat. I really had a ball with the thing.
Of course you did.
And a wild
had a little limp also?
Oh yes,
of course.
Which I use, I should say. Plus an accent, a southern accent. I did that, yeah. Because you got to keep You got to keep in acting condition like a boxer, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, at one time, just a moment ago, I said, you know, what my son has said to me. This is another thing we have in common, as you said to me the other day. We have two sons,
Yeah.
and they want to be actors, and,
Yes.
and they were both in a hurry to become stars. Tell me a little bit about that, about dealing with a young man that comes to you and says, I want to be a star. What do you say to them? What do you say to an actor? I want to be a star. And he doesn't say, I want to be an actor. He says, I want to be a star. There's a difference, you see.
Yeah.
I mean?
You have to start with the fact that in both our sons' cases, they were born into families that were fairly famous, notorious. Right. So that's a tough thing for a kid to where he is, you know.
Very tough.
So you start out with that. Now, what do you say to? I have to speak subjectively to my son. I said, well, let's say he's now 6, 8, 9 years old. Now, when I was 6 or 8 or 9 years old, I was already selling papers in the street. I can't ask him in this day and age to go out and sell papers, can I? No. So what are you going to do?
You have to buy him the newspaper, right? The chain.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Make it a little easier.
So when he was about 11, I said, well, it's been gone on long enough. You really don't know much about the outside world. I want you to get a job this summer. And so he said, doing what? I said, well, I don't know. What do we do around here? Where you won't get kidnapped or something like that. And I said, if I do a picture, I'll get you a little part in it. He says, oh, well, that's very nice of you, but I don't want a little part. I want to start out as a star. He's 11. Well, do you know, there's some logic in that, because you know people that came in here that were picked up off a filling station.
That's true.
And because I have one in mind right now, so I'm not going to mention.
No, of course not.
But he looked great,
right.
And the producer or the producer's wife maybe took a fancy to put him in the part, and he was sensational.
Sure.
So from that point on, if he handles himself, which is even more difficult, if he can handle himself, he's got it there. He's got it made there. So he was correct that sometimes you can start out as a star.
And he was using positive thinking anyway.
Yeah,
if you create a positive energy, it may happen, right?
It did. Well, anyhow, I don't want to go to the yarn, but about 2 or 3 weeks later, Tony Miner, a producer in New York, sent out a script that involved an 11-year-old boy as the hero, the whole bloody thing. And it was a marvelous role. Mm-hmm. And I read the thing, and I talked to my wife, and well, let's not talk to Edward about this. Well, he heard got it in the wind, and he says, the character was named George Mellish. I'm George Mellish, he says, you know. And sure enough, he started out at $500 a week at the age of 11. Yeah. Well, that was then he didn't do another picture until he was 20-ish when he did Butterflies Are Free. Right. But he was right. He never bothered with the bit parts.
He's brilliant. I've seen him do some marvelous things.
And I had the pleasure of working with your boy there.
That's true, in one of the Switch. Yeah. Now, that's funny. For example, this kid of mine he finished high school. He had been accepted to 3 colleges. He was a very good student. And now he comes home, and we sit, and then I'm to ask him, what college are you going to go to? And I asked him that, and he gave me a pause that Marlon Brando couldn't have given me, one longer than that. And he says to me, I don't know what college I want to go. And I said, well, you want to take a year off? That's okay with me. He says, no, it isn't that. I don't know what I said, what is it that you want to become? He says, I want to become an actor. And immediately I used some obscene language as a reaction to that. I explained all of the vicissitudes of being an actor, but he said, that's all I ever heard since I was born. I never had any chance to be anything else. And
so he put it back on you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I decided to help him a little bit, put him with an acting
Put you on the defensive right away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't help you to be somebody's son. It may open a couple of doors. Actually, once you go through that door, it may even be a little more difficult. You see?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to perform. I just thought of it. We were talking about learning. Each picture you'll learn something. You know, I had the marvelous privilege of working with Fats Waller.
Oh, really?
Yes, on radio, 1931, before he became famous. He was a pianist, and we had a radio show together where he played and I sang. It was 1931, was still in the time of Prohibition. So he used to make a gallon of gin in his bathtub every day. And by the end of the evening, it was gone and so on. But he played marvelous jazz piano, as it turned out later on. And this was a show that went on at midnight at WLW in Cincinnati, and it was called Moon River. It was lugubrious songs that would lull people to sleep, you know, like McDowell's To a Wild Rose.
And you learned from him things that influenced you in your career.
I was getting to this. One of the things I remember, as I say, he loved jazz. But it was difficult because I would be singing Sylvia, let us say. Sylvia's hair is like the night, touched with glancing starry, and he's playing on the organ. He played the organ, marvelous organ. Touched with glancing starry beams, and he's playing this organ. Such a maid as drifts through dreams, and he'd take another breath. This is Sylvia too. By this time, he'd had this kind of music, and I'd be saying, "This is Sylvia too," and his left hand would go, "Kavaf, kavif, kavam, bam, 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 beedly, bomby, bomby, bomby." I said, "Fats." And he'd, "Such a maid as Sylvia," whatever the song was, you know. But what was marvelous about him, what I did learn, I think I learned, it certainly did change me somewhat, but I didn't learn enough of it, was his unbelievable delight and vitality in what he did.
Now, we were talking, for example, about, getting bad roles, badly written, etc. Did you ever get the feeling, I want to get out of this business?
Every picture. First day, there must be some other line of work.
Well, Bob Mitchell said it beats working at the bank.
That's true, yeah.
Now, going back to the fact that you have done so many different things. Now, you produced at one time educational films, right? When was that, and what made you do that, and why did you do it?
That's interesting. It's related to another thing that you brought up. I was a student of Thomas Jefferson in his writings, in the 30s.
Oh yeah, I know you were not in his classroom.
And during the war, when I was in combat, I was really disgusted with watching the stupidity and the dying and killing and so forth. And when I said, if I ever get out of this, if I ever get home alive, I'm going to set up an educational film company, because like Thomas Jefferson, I believe that education was the answer, you know? And
still is, isn't it?
Huh?
Still is.
No.
It isn't?
No.
It should be.
It should be, but it isn't, yeah. So I set up this film company, and we made films on labor management relations, public health, medical films. I made the first films on desegregation, and I got into a certain amount of trouble with the Un-American Activities Committee as a result of some of those films, like labor management relations, for example, things of that sort. Well, in the end, I was supporting the company with my income from movies. I got back.
That was your own money?
Yeah, my own money. And I ended up going bankrupt at that time for about $200,000, which took me about 7 years to pay off.
Because that was a lot of money then.
A lot of money then, yeah, like a couple of million now, I suppose, yeah.
Right.
And that's how I got into television, because I was grabbing $50 here and $100 there in a picture, because also 1947 or 48 was a bad year in films, and I didn't do any films at all. That's when everything went to the wall. And that's where I learned to be a dramatic actor as opposed to being a light comedian on television.
On light television.
Because you took everything, like I mentioned.
Exactly.
Not Norman Rockwell.
George Orwell.
George Orwell. George Orwell's 1984.
that's right.
serious dramatic actor.
Now, let's talk, for example, talking about television, let's talk about the Franklin you did. That was a very interesting experiment, I thought, because they got, was it 3 or 4 different actors to play different ages of Ben Franklin, right?
Yeah, I played him as a boy.
You played him as a young man with knee pants, I remember, yes. No, you played him when he was ambassador to France, wasn't it? Yes, when he was very naughty, all involved with all kinds of ladies, etc. Tell me about that experience, seriously, playing a figure
being naughty
like
or
that.
being an actor? Yeah.
Both. Because being naughty, it seems to me, was part of Ben Franklin's personality. He was able to create, invent, design, and do all kinds of marvelous things with ladies at the same time.
Are you criticizing him?
No, I'm endorsing him.
Because you're in no position.
I'm endorsing him.
Yeah. Coming from you, it's tactless, yeah.
No, I'm endorsing him.
Yeah.
Yes, I was a student of Franklin, as you were of Jefferson. You see.
Well, my wife was a student of Franklin in that sense, and so I had many discussions with her about him, and it was one of those things you want to do for free. You know?
Of course.
Don't let that get around.
No.
At any rate, I did again the preparation, which was easy in his case, all the pictures and the marvelous thing about Franklin seemed to me was his wonderful warmth. Mm-hmm. It's true he was a great intellect. It's true he invented this and that, and he designed that liaison with France and so forth, one thing and another. But he was he loved life and he loved the people.
And the humor.
Humor.
Yeah.
You know, and that it's interesting. To me, it's far more interesting than the fact that he was an intellectual giant. And except in one case, that the next guy that tried that trick with the string and the key and the kite got killed.
Oh, really?
That's right, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, just stick with me. And
right, I learned a lot.
And all that stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, how old was the character when you played him?
I have no idea.
What was it, 70, 80?
Yeah, well, you mean in that case? Yes,
he was kind of old, isn't it?
Give or take, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you think it worked that 4 different actors, because it was kind of an experiment, wasn't it, to get 4 different actors to play them at 4 different ages?
It worked for me. I loved it, and I thought it was a marvelous show.
As a total project,
however,
did it work?
I was very lucky because I had the French background, which was far more interesting.
More colorful.
And the other actors that followed had more difficult. It wasn't as marvelous a time for them as it was in Paris. And so I had lots of color and beautiful ladies, as you say, and flowers and an excellent director. And
who directed that?
Oh, I knew you would ask.
Right, yeah. Well, he was excellent anyway. We'll find out. The kids are going to watch this, but they know. You should have caught
the fact that I skated over it, knowing, you know, but you had to stick your nose.
No, I don't even remember the other actors.
Make me look like an idiot.
I don't remember the other actors. I remember Lloyd Bridges, and who else were the others? I don't remember. You see? Obviously, you made a great impact.
Well, but it was I think the director, the script, Howard Fast, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, and awfully good director. What was his name? Anyway.
Well,
what was your question?
It doesn't. My question was playing a historical figure. This is my own personal question. Restrictive or inspirational?
Oh, that's no.
Or was it both?
Well, you have to wear the glasses and you limp and restrictive in that sense, and wear the wig every day, get made up with a bald head. But playing any character, you got to dig down and try to find the real life in him, and it was not difficult at all with Franklin. Sometimes you have to create a whole background to justify some of the things you do later on. So you know, so that you're consistent and you know where you're going. But in Franklin, it was a lead pipe cinch, because you study when he broke up for a penny, he got the bun and and all that kind of thing, you know. And he's probably of all the historical characters, maybe except Lincoln, we know more about him and his
That is true.
humor and his warmth and things than any other
is true.
person that I know of.
Olivier has said innumerable times that he creates a character from the surface in. He has said that he wants to see the character physicality first and work from there and go in. Other people work from inside out.
I think Brando does that.
What do you think?
I think Brando works from inside out. They're
Do you
both.
have a system of your own, or you use them both, or what?
You have to use them both, sure. I do. Like I say, the character in Attack, I dug down into my own experience in combat and watching other people and how they rationalize this and we do it in life all the time. We rationalize all our. Otherwise, we'd go mad.
Right.
And if we really knew the truth about some of our actions, we'd be terribly embarrassed. But we've put a good light on them in order to preserve our sanity. But in develop, for example, I mentioned going back into Dreiser. At the same time, I mentioned putting the eye patch on and the cane and that kind of external thing.
What you're saying that whether you work from inside in or inside out, you arrive at a similar conclusion.
I think now that you bring this up, I don't think you can do one or the other. I think that is, first of all, you have to remember there's an audience out there, and you're trying to communicate something with them. And if it's all inside of you, period, you're not getting to them.
Right.
Now, at the same time, if you're nothing but externals, you're not interesting to them after they got the first shot of you.
Of course.
So I think one of the things about the Actors Studio is they work inside. And the other thing about the American Academy is they start from outside.
Right.
And that's been a dichotomy that's existed for a long time, an ambivalence that I think is valid, but it's up to you.
It's up to the individual actor to find his own
The old saying is
system.
there are no great teachers, there are only great students.
That's true.
And I think in this case that applies.
Is there anything you would have done different in your career? I mean, the progression of your career. Is there anything at any time during your long career that you would have done something different?
Yes, very often I look back and I say, I really blew it there. I should have. And yet, in all honesty, if I look back and see how I was pushed by fate or something into doing this or that, it very often saved my hide.
It was like if you were being directed practically.
Truly, yeah. I have no. I see. Maybe this is what we're talking about. If a student tries to evaluate where he's going, I think the smartest thing is to say, what are your virtues? What are your talents? For example, I had a modest, mediocre voice, which I tried to develop. I was able to dance a little bit. I studied constantly languages and acting and things of that sort. I had no business sense at all, none at all. And therefore, while I tried to be a businessman rather stupidly, whereas if I had been smart or somebody had been advising me, they'd said, look, this is where you should go, Ed, you know. Right. But the environment at the time and that everyone in school was studying business and so forth, and I got sucked into that hysteria, you know. Whereas had I had an ounce of brains, I would have looked and seen and realized that the best thing for me to do is to do what God handed to me, which was a certain amount of acting talent, because even in high school I was the head of the class play. Right. My best friend and I vied for the role. I won, and his name is Johnny Moorhead. He's now head of the...
He talks very badly about you
Northwest.
Of that.
Well,
still.
It's interesting because he became a banker, and he became board chairman of the biggest bank in the Northwest. Did a great favor for the banking industry, and I became an actor and did an additional great favor to the banking industry because I had no talent. I had no talent whatsoever, and I should have got a glimpse of it then. But I suffered and I struggled and I went in the wrong direction.
Instead of just enjoying it and go with it.
To let it hang loose and do what you enjoy. Exactly. I was brought up as a German. A very German, strict and disciplined and so forth. And I carried, if you weren't in pain, you weren't working hard.
Something was wrong with you.
You're not pulling your weight in the boat, you know?
Yeah.
Until I got married, and I married a Mexican, And she...
Now watch it now. Watch it.
Oh, excuse
With the
me.
Latins, watch it.
Marvelous Mexican.
She's amazing.
Yeah. And,
sensational lady.
And she does everything with
Mother
with
Earth,
love.
I
With
call
love.
her. Mother Earth.
Huh?
She's Mother Earth. She embraces everything and everybody.
And she has fun all the time. And it took me about 10 years. I'm a slow learner. It took me about 10 years to realize I was on the wrong track. So what I'm really, with all this, I'm not hard to draw out, am I? Yeah.
No, not really. Not really.
What I'm really getting at is that it's just as easy to have fun and start when you're young.
Sure.
Don't wait till you're, like I was 12 or 15.
You worked with Bogey, didn't you?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Bogey, about working with him. Because I knew him personally, socially quite well, but never worked with him.
It was quite a while ago. We did a picture. The only thing I remember distinctly is climbing into a cage full of lions and tigers, which brings us to Stunts.
Yes, interesting.
Yeah. I don't mean to shortchange on Bogey, but I don't have any anecdotes about Bogey or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. It was wonderful to work.
We were talking before about sometimes actors doing stunts, and I said, what do you think some of us once in a while say, I can do that?
Well, I've done a lot of stunts. Some of them I shouldn't have, but here we always rationalize. You see, you look at 400 extras out there and you say, I think I'm going to really do the stunt myself. Some of them are pretty girls.
Show off a little bit.
Yeah, show off.
Right.
And as a result, I've got a neck that I hurt in a circus, a knee, an ankle, a shoulder here. And every time it starts to rain, I ache, and I remember the African picture, the opening night at the Waldorf. Everything is...
You can read your biography right there.
Yeah. Now, I said to my son Edward, I said, don't do any stunts. But he wants to be macho.
Of course.
So he now has a bad back, got kicked in Greece or Sicily, wherever it was, and a mad shoulder because he drove a motorcycle that he shouldn't have.
But you said an interesting thing. We were working on a switch in Santa Barbara. It was 2 o'clock in the morning at the beach. It required for you to go and practically drown, a heavy, remember, dragged you into the water and you were drowning. And I said, Eddie, is 40 degrees or 30 degrees. The water is probably under that. And you want me to send a double? And he said, no. And we discussed the fact that if I would put a double there, some dramatic value would be lost because the camera would have to be very far away. And that was a very interesting point, I thought, that sometimes it's worthwhile doing a stunt if it's not too dangerous, just because the continuity of the dramatic scene.
You overlooked the fact that you've got very overpowering eyes.
Oh, I see.
As a director.
I say, get in there.
Hypnotic,
Eddie.
yeah.
Get in there, Eddie.
The truth of the matter is, I swim every morning in the sea anyhow.
The truth is, I didn't want to do it, and I said, get in there.
So it's nothing.
No,
that was really nothing at all. But I did a jump from a tower in Captain Newman, MD, about 30 or more feet up into a net where I committed suicide, falling down into this net.
Fantastic.
And while it didn't hurt me, the whole net collapsed. Big mess, and the wire whipped around and cut one of the electricians, his face, to ribbons. And he's been under surgery ever since. So it's a dangerous thing.
It is, and sometimes it isn't worth it. So many interests you've always had and continue to have. Do you think you are politically inclined, obviously? Do you think actors should use whatever influence they have on people in the political process, especially in the electoral process, for example? They go out and campaign for people, etc.?
Basically, part of the question is, should actors be in politics? The truth of the matter is, we're all in politics. Even as we sit here, somebody's stealing money from our pockets, or we're sending our sons to fight to defend some corporation somewhere.
Right.
And so we're stuck in politics regardless. Politics is part of our life. Now, yes, an actor has a much more access to, let us say, the Merv Griffin show than a scientist or a politician.
Right.
But you have the right to accept that, but you also have the responsibility to try very hard to make sure you're right, and not merely shooting your mouth off.
Right.
You know?
Be very careful.
And that's pretty tricky, because we're all different, and I might disagree with this man and say he has no right to use his, but that's what democracy is. You argue and you struggle and you fight. Nobody ever said it was easy. Yes, my answer to that is yes. You have to be part of your life and times. I think Oliver Wendell Holmes said that. You must be part of your life and times at the penalty of being judged not to have lived.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you're saying if they want to go out and campaign for somebody, if that's what they believe in, why not, right?
They were citizens long before they were actors.
Exactly.
And they have children that they got to worry about long before they were actors, perhaps.
Right.
What are you smiling about?
Because I'm going to ask you, what is Eddie Albert going to do in the next 40 years of his life?
Oh.
And you're going to hang in there for at least 40, right?
It's a very sensible question, yes.
Why not?
Yes. Well, just before I met you the other day, and I think this is important for the students listening, I had luncheon discussing the new satellites.
Oh, yes.
The new electronic area that changes away from, say, networks, the CATV, disco video discs, video discs.
Yeah, those discs.
Those things, yes.
Amazing.
Where you can take things off there. The fact that we'll have maybe 140 channels, not 3. So this is why I was a little concerned about saying I would stay with the stage. That was all right in the 30s.
Then,
I'm dubious about it now. I don't know.
Well, just I'm able to put a picture on a satellite one night and 400 million people will watch it in one night.
Yeah, I don't quite know how this is going to change, but I intend to be there.
Be there
when
to
it
see
does,
it.
yeah. And to enjoy
We should.
it.
I think we shouldn't go any place. This is a very good place to be.
Yeah, there'll be more work for actors than ever before.
Okay.
I don't. What? Pardon me.
No. Another question is, as an actor, you're still looking forward to something?
Yeah, the electronic era. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
I'm looking forward to continuing acting because I think acting is marvelous to connect you, to make you a member of the human race.
It certainly is.
Marvelous people, you know, and we're terribly lucky, you and me.
Of course we are.
We're rich, we're lucky, we have a ball. We should kneel down every day and thank the good Lord.
That's a very good introduction, and I want to thank you, Eddie, for a marvelous interview, and I also want to say that I hope we stick around as friends for a long, long time.
Stick with me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.